Based on Colson Whitehead's novel of the same name, the 10-episode limited series, The Underground Railroad, follows Cora, a slave in the southeastern United States during the 19th century, who makes a bid for freedom from slaveholding Georgia and, in turn, takes possession of her personhood. I'm Luca Giliberti, contributing writer at Gold Derby, and I am joined today by two-time International Emmy Award nominee Thuso Mbedu, who stars as Cora in the series. Thuso, how meaningful was it to you to have Barry Jenkins direct all 10 episodes of this series, and thereby have him guide you as an actor through this entire experience?
I think from the very first day I met Barry, I met a very kind, generous, and respectful person. You know, the way that Barry thinks, the way that he receives the world, and the way that he is in the world was something that I felt I would be truly honored to be a part of. Having worked with him in the test shoot, you know, we took, I think, 4 scenes that we did over and over and over again. And he had told me in that moment that it's not about him making me do it over again because he can't find what he's looking for. He was just testing my range. And then he went on to explain that when we get on set, he doesn't direct the first take. He lets you make the offer and then he directs you from there. He guides you from there. And I understood in that moment that working with him would really result in my growth, not only in my craft, but as a person. And then having been on set, seeing the way that he handled everybody from cast to crew, there was no role that was too small. You know, there was no person who was higher or more important than the next. The environment was conducive to what we were doing. We felt like we were a part of the process and not just, you know, means to an end. It was a collaborative process where everybody genuinely cared for each other. And that for me is beyond anything I ever could have hoped or wanted.
Right. And how was it having guidance counselors on set? How important was that for all of you actors?
It was important for everyone. Kim White was constantly there with me. She'd come to me even when I didn't ask for her, just to check in and make sure that I'm okay. Because coming into it, you know, you develop tricks and little quips that will help you come in and out of the moment and still make sure that you as a person are okay outside of the role. But Kim, you know, would go above and beyond. We knew that even if you wanted to contact her outside of set, you had the ability to do so. And she was there not only for the cast, but for the crew as well, constantly making sure that our mental and emotional health is what was taken care of more than anything. Because if we were to then slip into, you know, some state of being, the production wouldn't be able to go forward. You know, it was important, I think, and something Aaron said earlier is that knowing that she was there, regardless of whether you used her or not, made a huge difference in terms of feeling safe in the environment that we were in.
Wow, that's fascinating. And what were some of the thoughts that were going through your head after you got this part? And what does it mean to you to tell her story?
Whew, I remember after having read the book, this is now, you know, I think just before the test shoot, and then processing everything that had happened just after the test shoot. I'm in a place where I'm not sure whether I've gotten the role or not. I feel like, you know what, I'd called my manager and I said, I tried my best. I left it all on the table. And if I don't get the role, it wasn't for a lack of trying. And then going through these emotions of, I don't know if I am, you know, good enough or strong enough to serve the character the way that she needs to be served. I'd have moments where, and then I'd be like, but I want to try, I want to grow, I want to take the story on because it's such an important and very powerful story. And then just having moments where I was crying because I really, really, really wanted an opportunity to play this role. It was just, you know, it was waves of that. And so when Barry finally called me to tell me that I got the role, I think I was frozen for a good time. I was on the phone on time. Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, you know, and it's like, oh God, what is happening? I don't know what to say. And then hanging up and having a moment of, I got it. But then it's like, I'm not fully registering. Like my mind takes a long time to actually fully realize what is happening. And I was joking with my friend just yesterday that I was watching an interview with Joel Edgerton and Oprah,
Yeah.
and Joel had spoken about me, and he's saying great things, but he's saying Thuso Mbedu. And my mind goes, oh, that Thuso Mbedu sounds like a nice girl. And then my mind goes, but that's you. That's
Yeah.
you he's talking about. So,
Yeah.
my brain takes a minute to register things. And so it took me a while to fully realize and accept that this is what was happening to me, for me to be able to tell the story that I felt as a mouthpiece, not only just for the character and the time that it's set, but for people today.
Yeah. And you have spoken about how in your preparation process, the story stopped being an African American story and became one about an African in America. Can you
Yes.
talk us through what your preparation process looked like and how this realization really ended up shaping it?
So it came from a place where at the very beginning, I realized that what I thought I knew about the enslaved in America had to be kind of, thrown in the waste bin, because what I thought I knew really, really paled in comparison to what the truth actually was. So I had to let myself unlearn that so that I could completely receive the truth of the situation. And Barry had sent me a lot of stuff to read. He had sent me audio testimonials to listen to as well. And in those audio testimonials, I, for the first time, heard enslaved people or formerly enslaved people speak, which contrasts greatly to what we hear when we watch movies or series of shows set in the 1800s. Completely different. One, the English that we see on mainstream media is very fluent. Very fluent. It doesn't have hicks. It has an accent. There's the Southern dialect, but the English is very fluent. And so hearing them speak a broken English reminded me of, there's I think it's very early on in the book where Colson Whitehead describes that, the people who had stolen them and was selling them to different people made sure that no one from the same cultural group or from the same space was sold to the same plantation, so that they couldn't understand each other. The last thing they needed was people who could understand each other, speaking together and starting a revolution, And so then that came for me, and I was like, okay, this explains the broken English. But then what made it come that much closer to home is the fact that English that I heard in the tapes is an English that if you went to South Africa or different parts of Africa today in 2021, whether it be the rural South Africa or the townships, people speak like that today. And so I even went to Barry and I said, I cannot afford to have Cora speak this very fluent English, because even reading their testimonials, it was hard for me to understand what it is that they were saying. We had to break it down with my dialect coach. And I said, how do we find a place where she speaks in a way that, we don't have to have subtitles in the show, but still carries the truth of the fact that they weren't speaking flawless English, and that was the conversation with my dialect coach, and then me tracking my vocal journey. Because what was also important to me was the foundation of Cora has been abandoned by her mother. She's been ostracized by her community. She has lived a life where she's more isolated, and so she goes through this thing where, for me, she uses her voice as a weapon. She won't speak if she doesn't have to. She chooses the people that she speaks to. And like later on in episode 5 and 6, when it's just her and Ridgway, she's observing at all points. When she speaks, it's either to point a jab at him, to accuse him of something, to get a reaction out of him, or it's in the silences, she's trying to see opportunities to run away. So her vocal journey for me shaped her, was shaped by her psychological journey and her emotional journey. It was a case of, how do I show the chaos of what is within? Because Cora hardly ever spoke,
Yes.
How do we show the chaos of what's within by using her voice, And yeah, it was extensive preparation, understanding the environment under which she was born and raised, the circumstances under which she found herself, and then using that psychology to inform her emotional, mental, physical, and vocal journey throughout.
Wow, that's a very fascinating process, and I think that entire sentiment really plays into what we also get to see in the 8th episode, in which Cora unloads all this pain and this sorrow that for a runaway comes from losing people and leaving so much behind along the way. How challenging or emotionally taxing was it for you to carry this unbelievable burden on your shoulders throughout this entire shoot and maybe even beyond?
It was challenging, but I am grateful that I never at any point in the story or during the shooting of the story felt like I had to carry the burden alone. It would have been very easy to do that, but I don't think I would have been able to sustain myself, mentally and emotionally had I insisted on doing that. I knew that, Barry was with me at every given turn. He was also, a person who would randomly just check in on me. Are you okay? Are you fine? Do you need anything? And especially, with the heavier scenes, he's an observer. Barry is an observer. He knows how to read the space. He would know, like, even in how he approaches me in the heavier scenes, would be different to how he would approach you in any other given moment. But then with my colleagues as well, here we are sharing these very heavy experiences, but we've built this unit where we can literally and figuratively lean on each other. And when I say literally, I remember I'd have moments where I was feeling like I'm not okay, and I would go to Aaron, who's Caesar in the show, and I just lean on him, and he just just hug me, just just a reminder, yeah, I'm here, that those type of relationships. But it was that thing of, I never allowed myself to feel like I'm alone, because so in the past, I've had moments where I felt like I'm alone, and that has never ended well. So it was like, we're shooting this for over a period of 10 months. Take care of yourself as best as you know how. We were a unit both on and off set, cracking jokes on weekends, going on karaoke night, hosting games night, going to the beach, and yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. But the journey itself was heavy. It was hard, but I guess it's also a part of what we do as actors. You allow yourself to go into those spaces, but then luckily you have training that helps you get out of those moments as best as you know how. And then afterwards, after wrapping, I saw a therapist so that she could help me debrief from the character.
Right. And in the 9th episode, we really get this incredibly climactic and crucial moment for Cora opposite Ridgway, played by Joel Edgerton. Perhaps without giving too much away, what does this moment mean for Cora?
I think, Cora doesn't go into it thinking and feeling, this is what I'm going to do, this is what needs to be done, as we see her walk away. But then Ridgway goes into this whole monologue about how he'll always come after her. She has heard about him since she was a child, and there is no getting away from him. And then in that moment, and I'm being very vague so as to not give anything away, in that moment, it's like, if I want this freedom, I don't have a choice but to do this. And also in his monologue, he goes on about how he took away that which she really cared for. But also we know that she really cared for this person, but never allowed herself to fully realize it and experience it. So she felt, shortchanged. And here is this person bragging about it. And so she's like, you know what, this is for everyone that hasn't been able to get this far in the journey, but has also, like, outside of her own world, everything that she has witnessed, just, because they're Black people. This is what I'm doing as a favor to them. And then she does it.
Yeah. And it's such an amazing moment, and then it's followed by this amazing needle drop, which it was just incredible.
Yeah.
Is it true that you shot this series out of order?
Yes, we shot it out of sequence. Like we had to shoot out all the train, underground, like the railroad sequences at the beginning in Savannah, Georgia, because everything was built around an actual railroad.
Mhm.
Um, and then we had Aaron for the first and the second episodes in Savannah. And yeah, a lot of the stuff was out of sequence, but production tried their best to keep it in sequence as possible, but the locations were far spread around Georgia.
Right. And when did you get to shoot the final scene of the series? Was it toward the end of the shoot? Were you able to shoot that toward the end, or was it more in the middle?
I think it was in the middle. I could be mistaken.
Wow.
Because I think we shot majority of North Carolina, like February, March. Yeah, February, March. And then we shot episode 5, like end of January, February. So yeah, that other stuff would have been, but Barry has a better memory than I do.
And how were you able to prepare for conveying such specificity in this final scene without having lived through this entire journey in front of the camera?
That's the thing. I watch certain moments and I'm like, I had limited knowledge. If only I'd known that this is how I was gonna carry myself. I remember even in watching, when they go from Tennessee to Indiana, that train sequence where she meets Royal. They've just saved her from Ridgeway. And that was one of the first few things that we shot. And there's a whole lot of life that happens before that. And I remember watching it, I'm like, I wish I would have experienced a little bit of that life before performing it, because I definitely would have done it more. I would have done it differently. And so now talking about the end sequence, what I did for myself was I went through the book over and over again, because there's certain things the book affords us that we don't actually see in the script or in the show, but I wanted those layers to come in. I'm the type, to write my notes, and with my script notes, I'll have page references to the book about moments, the pivotal moments that would shift Cora mentally, emotionally, physically. And so when we shoot sequences, let's say I know today I'm going to be shooting the last sequence, then I'll go again from back to episode 1. I'm reading the script and I'm taking all those pivotal moments, those life-changing moments, and I'm putting them in like bullet points, so that when I'm learning this sequence, the end sequence, I have a summary of everything that she's gone through. And I go, okay, mentally, emotionally, this is what happened, this is where she is. So that by the time I get to the end sequence, I know exactly where she is. Obviously, again, had it been shot in sequence, the performance would have shifted a little bit, but it made sense. And Barry would always come and remind me as well, this is what's happened to her, this is where she is, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah.
And where is she in that final scene? And what does that ending say about the overall theme of this series?
In that final scene, we can see that she's exhausted. She's physically injured because, she's walking with a limp. And Molly is out here telling her, I'm hungry. And it's like, what must she do? What can she do? But obviously the upbringing has been completely different. She has lost a lot of people along the way. And now they have found someone who says that he can help them, get rest. And as we have come to see in the story, it's like, okay, she can breathe a little bit, but for how long? And it's, the ending is very similar to that of the book. And the reality is there's no set conclusion or set resolution, because the truth is in 2021, people are still suffering the consequences of what happened in the 1800s. In 2021, we can sit here and literally go through each episode of the Underground Railroad and draw exact parallels of what's happening today. So it's like, there is a sense of hope, but in that moment, she can't fully allow herself to relax, because every single time she has allowed herself to relax, something has gone wrong. So it's like, okay, you are here, this is the moment, and I have Molly now to take care of, and I'm tired. I don't want to fight anymore. But should I have to fight, I'm willing to.
Wow. And what did you learn, or what do you relish most from this entire experience, both as an actor and just as a human being?
Whew, I think I am grateful for the opportunity to have learned as much as I did. And this is something that I going into it again, I told myself, I didn't know what I didn't know until I did the research. And one of the things that I really wanted was for people in Africa, in different parts of the world, to fully understand the lived experience of the enslaved body in America. And having watched the show, I had two of my friends who are also from South Africa here with me this weekend. And at the end of episode one of my friends was almost in tears, and she said, I didn't know. And she's been living in America for over 10 years. So that's one thing that I'm grateful for, that not only did I learn, I know that the people who will be supporting and watching will also learn. And this is not only for people outside America, but we need bodies in America who aren't people of color to have the same realization, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But also for me, like within my craft, I got a chance to grow. I saw what it's like to be on a very healthy set, a set with caring people, a set where it's a give and take, where people fully understand the assignment or the project and are willing to do what is needed to best serve it. And so I don't know, just going forward, I know that I've been shifted for the better, and that I will apply everything that I've learned on this set to all the work that I'll be able to do in the future.
Right. And just briefly, on a final note, it was recently announced that you will be starring opposite Viola Davis in the upcoming film The Woman King, which will be directed by Gina Price Bythewood, and will, as I've heard, be shooting in your home country of South Africa. I know you can't get into the specifics here, but just briefly, what are you most looking forward to about this project?
Whew. Number one, when I first heard about the project and the fact that it's about, Black Amazons who are female warriors that actually existed in Africa, that was the first time I heard of something like that. So that excited me. And then to be able to tell that story really, really excites me. And then I'm looking forward to the training process. In the past as well, most of the roles that I've played have been, very dramatic roles, very emotional roles. But with this character, there's a line that Viola Davis's character tells my character where she says, there's no space for tears here. There's no place for tears. And so for me, that would be an awesome challenge. It's like, okay, Thuso, what do you have to offer us? What do you have to offer us if no tears are involved? So I'm looking forward to that, and shaping my body, learning weapons, training. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Well, we're
Yeah.
certainly looking forward, and thank you so much, Thuso, for joining us today. And
Thank
to our viewers and listeners, make sure to go to goldderby.com to make your predictions. And before you go, click subscribe to watch all of our great content and chats with top contenders. Thank you so much.